Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? Welcome to the IGN All-Star Community Podcast. This is our first pilot episode. It's a very special time. With me, over to my side, I got my friend, Mr. Peter Lopez. How you doing, my compatriot?
Pretty good, man. How's everything going with you?
I am so far so good, man. This is our first episode. This is it. This is our coming out party. This is episode 1. So, how you feeling? You excited? You ready for some cool stuff?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited. I'm ready to talk about games. I'm really interested in giving my opinion and seeing what kind of opinions other people have about our podcast and also about gaming. So I'm pretty stoked. I'm ready.
Yeah, we're all discussion-based and everything, so it's going to be fun. But, to kind of give you guys a little bit of background about this podcast and such, we're IGN fans. We're gaming fans. We're always on the forums and on the comment section, talking about different stuff, some of the latest news to go up on the IGN website. And me and Peter started talking, and it was like, you know what? We should do a podcast for this, just so we could talk about stuff. That's really much how it happened, right? It was just kind of like by chance.
Yeah, it was really just a shot in the dark. I remember I had just got hooked up with the IGN All-Star membership, and I was on the Skype chat, and I just said, you know what, screw it. Anybody want a podcast? And you were like the first one to be like, yeah, I'm down, let's do it. And we tried to reach out to other people, and a lot of people had put in for it, and it just seems me and you are really passionate about it, man. So
we got that G.I. Joe Snake Eyes Storm Shadow connection going on, pretty much. We were on the same wavelength, and we just started talking for a bit, and then it just kind of happened from there. It was like, you know what, we're doing this. We're diving into it. We're making this happen. So it was pretty cool.
Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves and let our IGN community peoples know who exactly we are. And why don't you go ahead and start that off?
Well, for me, I'm Jakejames Lugo. I'm a freelance games writer that I write about and review video games, give my opinions on the industry and such. I'm also an IGN fan. I go by the name MeMegaman03 on the MyIGN forums. I'm also an IGN All-Star. I've been an All-Star for, a good while. Not super, super long. Maybe I want to say about maybe 3-4 months, give or take. And I've just been a fan of IGN for years, and I've been a fan of gaming for years, all my life. And I love playing and writing about different video games and discussing it, and debating even sometimes, about video games. It's just a whole bunch of cool aspects that I find fascinating about this industry, that's stuff that resonates with me. I also love going to conventions, and I love checking out, movies, some of the big blockbusters. I was a movie critic for some time, reviewing different movies at midnight. I used to go to the movie theaters whenever new movies would drop at midnight and give my impressions the next day, for people that were interested in that type of stuff. But my primary passion has always been video games, and that's probably what we'll stay with for the rest of my life. So, Peter, what about you, man?
Well, my name is Peter Lopez. I live in Cali, California, and I, too, am a freelance writer. I am a news and reviewer. I'm a person who writes about games. Let's see, I just got hooked up, like I said before, with IGN All-Star. Let's see, I've been a fan of IGN for the longest time. It's my go-to place for podcasts and news and all that cool stuff. I've done one convention in my time. I just barely started writing.
I got to get you out some more.
yeah, I can definitely use the help, my friend. But I'm a big Nintendo fan. That's basically what I gravitate around when it comes to gaming. I have an Xbox and, I think like a really old PSP, but Nintendo has always been my thing since the 80s, and that's what I usually stick with. So I'm a big Nintendo nerd, big podcast fan, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, here's a little fun fact for them to kind of give them a little bit extra. What's your favorite video game console of all time up to this point?
The Super Nintendo, all the way.
That Super Nintendo, man. Me and you as little kids, we would have been fighting. those are real console wars. I was a Genesis kid. When I first started really playing video games, I was a Genesis kid. That was my first console. My first game I ever played, ironically enough, was the first Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, jeez.
It's just pretty crazy. But if I had to choose one of my favorite consoles of all time to this point, I would have to say, if not the Sega Genesis, definitely the N64. The N64 was where it was at, because that was the first video game console I got on my own, because I inherited my Genesis. And that was the console where I was able to finally get a bunch of my friends together and all of us be playing at the same time. And that was just when you had games like, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Part 2 anyway. When you had games like, Mario Kart, obviously. And then, obviously, the one that broke friendships was Super Smash Brothers. That was when things got really crazy for me and really fun. So I give it credit for giving me those types of memories.
Yeah, man, the 64 was great. I remember playing GoldenEye for hours, and it'd be me and a bunch of friends, and we would just be eating pizza and playing paintball mode. I think it was big head mode.
Big head mode.
Like just all day, every day, and that's pretty much what we did until I think my parents just told me, okay, you guys have to go outside and do something else.
I mean, GoldenEye was another one that broke friendships. Like,
Yep.
those games all, they were fun and they were amazing for parties and stuff like that, but like you wanted to kill each other by the time you were done. Like it was pretty nuts. But those are some fun gaming memories. I will give some credit though and a friendly nod to the PlayStation 2 because that was an awesome Christmas when I got my PlayStation 2. I had a Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex, and I think I had like some driving game. I think it was like Test Drive Off Road or something. But like I remember seeing that playing, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Oh jeez, yeah, PS2, man, that was the thing back in the day. I remember I really started playing PS2 back in high school, and I would go to a buddy's house, and he really got me into fighting games, and from there I started playing, Marvel vs. Capcom 2,
CVS 2, yep.
Yeah. And I'm dying for a return,
CVS 3
game. Yeah, I think there really needs to be one, and as a matter of fact, that should be what Microsoft jumps on, considering the latest, exclusive drop for the PlayStation 4 and PC. That is Street Fighter 5.
You really want to get fighting game fans divided. They go over to SNK and be like, hey, listen, give us the next King of Fighters or Art of Fighting game exclusive. Then there'll be a really big CVS at EVO. That would be crazy and hectic.
It needs to happen, man.
Hey, this is a crazy time that we live in now with the industry. Like things that we never thought would ever happen have finally either happened or they're happening, and it's pretty crazy. So,
Right.
so with that being said, let's get into some stuff. What's happened recently in gaming. Some of the big stuff that's been going on. Zelda Wii U. It's causing a big stir. I know it's a couple of the guys, Jose, Brian, and the rest of the guys over at Nintendo Voice Chat. They talked a little bit about their impressions of Zelda Wii U and such. But, I remember watching the footage when it first came up during the Game Awards, last weekend. And I was really blown away, more specifically at the scope of like the world of what this Zelda game is going to be like, utilizing the power of the Wii U. That's what a lot of people, including myself, have always wanted, a big world to kind of explore and kind of dive into. And it kind of gives, Zelda that kind of Lord of the Rings-esque / Skyrim type of feel that everybody's said for a while since, Skyward Sword originally first came out on the Wii.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, the thing about that video game that really got me was how open world it was, right? And the guys at NBC had chatted a little bit about that and how vast it's going to be. But if I could put my 2 cents in there, I hope it's not too vast, just because I don't want to be riding Epona for like 15 minutes to get from point A to point B. So I really hope they implement some kind of thing that makes time traveling faster, whether it be playing a flute and getting picked up by a bird. That'd be awesome. But I just hope it's not too big,
You know what I want? I mean, I don't mind the world being vast. If anything, for me, bigger is better as far as a world to explore. There's so much to do. If it has that same level of scope as Skyrim or like any of the Elder Scrolls games, I'm in for it. What I do want is more modes of transportation or more avenues I could take and options besides Epona. Like, I wouldn't mind, obviously, Epona being one of them, having quick travel, like, playing something on the Ocarina like they've had in past games to just quick travel different spots, or even like different modes of transportation, like, if not a train, kind of like, like what you see in Spirit Tracks, or like, the bird that you fly in, like, Skyward Sword. But give me more options if you're going to give me a bigger world. And not only would that kind of make things easier on me, but it'll give the whole world that you're exploring a lot more diversity, like different lands and areas that you visit. Maybe there's different things you could gain, or see or have, available to you in order to get around from place to place. That to me, that'll be cool, and it'll be kind of in line with Zelda's themes of like all these different races populating Hyrule.
Right, and to kind of piggyback off what Pear was talking about, he was saying, what's basically a humongous world without interaction.
Definitely.
Right? And that really clicked when he had said that, because in Skyrim, and I'm going to keep going back to Skyrim because Skyrim was a great video game back in 2011.
It was awesome.
Still is today. The thing that made Skyrim incredible for me was that you could just be running around doing your thing, and a bear would be attacking another bear, or a bear would be attacking a person, and that kind of gave it kind of crap. I'm going blank.
It kind of gave
like
That wilderness type of feel, like, surprise, like wonder. There's things that you don't know that are popping up all over the place. Like that, I love that idea, like what he was talking about, because not only does that give you a sense of like there'll be plenty of stuff to do while you're roaming in the world like that, but like look at the options of what you could do for different side quests, for different like stuff like enemies that are optional that you could go find and kind of like discover, even dungeons. Like just the idea of like running around the world and all of a sudden you come across like a hidden dungeon that's like maybe super tough at the time, but like you always have the option of like keeping in mind where it's at later on. Like that's sick.
Absolutely, yeah. It definitely needs to be in there, because if not, there isn't any kind of like AI interaction, then it's just going to be boring. It's just going to be an open world with just you picking apples and eating them, and that's pretty much it.
I want to see a lot of the different races, like the Zoras, the Octoroks, the Dekus. I want to see them, maybe not in abundance, like crazy abundance, maybe like, but little groups as I'm running through the worlds and stuff. Like, you remember how like in Ocarina of Time, like when you're running around and such, and then every once in a while you'll come across like a group of enemies, like the skeletons or something like that. Well, maybe not necessarily all the time being battles or like combat, but like you're just running around and like there's these different sections that are kind of like feel like how the towns feel, where they're just like a bunch of Deku scrubs just like hanging out or something.
Just kind of hanging out, chilling.
Just chilling, but it gives it that personality, it gives it that sense like, okay, this world is populated, this is a living, breathing ecosystem or a world to kind of interact with. Like, I mean, it gives it that character, and I think that like one of the highlights of the Zelda games is all its races, and I would love to see them all maybe interacting with each other. That'd be pretty cool, like mixtures of like Dekus and Zoras and Octoroks and like everything. It'd be so cool.
Right, and then, unless in this game everybody hates each other, well, then that'd be a different story.
That's how it is in every Zelda game, though. Like, they're all so segregated, Even in Ocarina of Time, like, the Zoras are away from the humans, and then the Gorons are up in the mountains getting away from each other. It's like, man, time for a little bit of cultural diffusion here.
Yeah, come together, man.
That'll be pretty sweet, I think. Now, let me ask you, what did you think of, like, some of the little, kind of like, obviously the different moves of what Link had on Epona, jumping off, being Legolas for, like, practically, like, 2 seconds, and stuff like that. Or even some of the stuff that the guys mentioned on the podcast where, the enemy just kind of, like, popping out from the ground, the big giant enemy that chases him. Like, what did you think of that stuff?
All that stuff's cool, and like like what I was saying, it really just adds to the environment, and I feel like the flip off of Epona, I think that's going to be cool after a while, but maybe after like doing it
It get cliche.
Yeah, you're like, okay, let's say, it's going to be kind of boring. So
I just want more than one move. I want to be able to do more than one thing.
I mean, it'd be awesome if he was riding Epona and he did that flip, but then he had a hook shot and he, latched onto a tree or latched onto like some boulder on top of a mountain or something. If it was just shooting an arrow, then I think that, like you said, it'd be pretty cliche, and it'd be cliche pretty quick.
That opens up a lot of cool things for puzzles. Like, imagine being able to do that. Like, you have to use Epona to jump off Epona, to use a hookshot to get to an area to kind of complete a puzzle, or get through, like, the beginning area of, like, a dungeon. Like, there could be a bunch of different ways you could utilize that. Or maybe when you're fighting, like, a giant boss and such, maybe besides jumping around, maybe you got to use Epona and Tangent to kind of, like, roam around the side in order to get on to another section of, like, a boss or some giant enemy. Or even a structure. But, I want to have, like, a little bit of variety, just being able to fly into the air like the Matrix, you know what I mean?
Right. Jump off the horse and stab someone in the face, like...
I wonder... Awesome. You know what I wonder? I wonder if maybe it'll be a little bit different, because, traditionally in Zelda games, that have, like, characters like Epona or any sort of transportation, you really can't take them with you in certain dungeons. I would love to see a dungeon that's centered around utilizing Epona. Like taking Epona inside the dungeon, like maybe it's like this gargantuan like style cave, or like this huge structure, like building or something that like because it's so massive, maybe you gotta utilize Epona to get around from one spot to another, or like do different like fetch quests and stuff. Something like that'll be different for the series. It'll open up a new avenue.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, what if you're running away from I'd say Mount.
It's Mount. No, I think it's like Mount, not Mount Doom, because that's like the Lord of the Rings. But like, Death Mountain.
Death Mountain. There you go. Like, you're trying to escape and you have to ride Epona out. Like just something like that would be cool.
But I mean, like, even taking your insight as you're going in and exploring the dungeon, like not having it where it's like a quick thing. Like, I actually want the dungeon to be revolved around the idea that you have to be with Epona. I think.
And how would you feel? Not to shift gears, but how would you feel if they redid the like? Did you play A Link Between Worlds?
Yes.
Okay, so the whole rental item system thing. I
Yes.
wasn't a big fan of that, but how would you feel if they just dragged that into this one?
I don't think they should use it for this one. I mean, that was a cool, interesting idea, and I think that works for a traditional style Zelda game, top down or whatnot, and especially on the handhelds. I think that was a little bit cooler because again, that gave you a little more freedom to open up to go wherever you wanted to go, and it had that kind of like Twitch feel to it. But for like this one, where I think like it's going to take a lot more nuances from like Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, and such, I think like I kind of like the idea of finding the items in the dungeons because again, you feel like you're getting something out of like exploring the dungeons and actually utilizing the items. What I do want though, and what Link Between Worlds and other older Zelda games have done, be able to have the items that are omniusent. Like maybe utilize some of the items in interesting ways in like later dungeons or other areas that are beyond its scope of what its initial intention is. Like, because that was the cool thing about A Link Between Worlds. Like some of the items that you would get, like especially like the wands and stuff, you could defeat certain enemies or certain bosses easier by using them, or if you didn't get them at the time, you could still be able to like destroy them with your sword or another different type of item. There was that freedom to play around to kind of get around certain obstacles like that, and I want to see more of that implemented in later Zelda games, especially this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm really 50-50. I don't really care much for the item rentals. I feel like it made the dungeons way too easy. In traditional Zelda games, you have to earn that in the dungeon or temple, and you have to work your way towards that item. You even have to find it, do puzzles for it. But I feel the rental system just kind of was like, okay, pay 200 rupees, here you go, and use it, I mean, it just gave it to you right there and then, and it just made the introduction to the dungeon, which should be difficult at first, just way too easy.
I mean, you like finding it inside the dungeon, though.
Yeah, you're looking for it. You're in the water temple, and you're like, oh man, how do I get over there? Well, I have to look around for a hook shot rather than just, I already have the hook shot before I go into this dungeon, so I can just go straight to where I need to go. You
know what's cool that I thought was like really interesting, and like some of the older Zelda games and whatnot, like they had items and like different like weapons, like especially in like A Link to the Past or even the original Zelda, where you would find items or weapons that were optional that you necessarily maybe you didn't know at first, or they weren't necessary to complete certain certain quests or whatnot, but you would find them and they would be like have different properties or utilize and make things a little bit different as you approach them. Like for example, I think it was I think it was in Link to the Past or was it the original Zelda? There was like a certain type of sword that you could find that wasn't the most powerful one, but it was strong for a specific point in the game, like that, and it made certain things like a little bit different as you approach them. You understand what I mean? Like stuff like that, I think, or like different hidden items that aren't not necessary to complete your quest, but are cool to have there and cool to discover and use down the line. Like the best thing. If you ever seen those videos by Egoraptor where he was talking about Legend of Zelda: Link to Past and Ocarina of Time, he said like you were building up an arsenal, and I like that. To me, that's cool. That matches up with like being an adventurer in Zelda.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be all for that.
I think that'll make this version of Zelda even much more better than Skyward Sword, because a lot of people they have a mixed reaction to Skyward Sword. I think like this one has the potential to really kind of like be another universal hit for that franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hope they pull it off.
Definitely. I mean, it's Nintendo. They know what they're doing when it comes to Zelda. They know how to make a good Zelda game. So, with that being said, though, some of the other news and stuff that come out of that obviously was the news that we're getting Star Fox before Zelda next year.
Yeah, now see, that's another one that I hope they pull off. And they're saying that it's supposed to come out sometime next year, but I remember, I believe it was during E3 last year, Miyamoto had said they're looking for developers. So does that mean they found someone already?
I would assume so.
Developer, and is it really going to come out next year?
That's the thing. Like, if Nintendo wasn't confident about like a time frame, because obviously their time frames are always getting moved and they're always like giving ranges, not necessarily an exact date and stuff, but I don't think they would come out in the Game Awards, especially kind of like drop that during a Zelda presentation like that, if they weren't confident or if they didn't already have a concrete idea of what's going on. Because if that was the case, they would have never mentioned Star Fox at all. You would have never heard a thing about it. I think, though, that, it's kind of funny how we haven't seen anything of it other than that blurry footage back at E3 with Miyamoto. And it would be interesting maybe to get like a teaser or something to kind of give everybody a little more confidence about this game, because if it's so close sometime next year, then I want to know how far that game is in development. Like, because according to some people that saw that footage that was with Miyamoto, it only had the Star Fox 64 graphics with the actual mechanics that they were going to utilize for Star Fox Wii U.
Wow.
Which is interesting because obviously the footage that was there was only the stuff in the R-Wing. I want to know if they're going to have stuff on the ground. I preferably, personally for me as a Star Fox fan, I would be happy if it was just R-Wing missions.
Yeah.
It was like Star Fox 64, just like that, but give me awesome, crazy, great-looking R-Wing battles. Even like, if not just the 360 stuff, even the on-rail stuff like that, I'm all good. I'm in. Like, I don't want them to kind of like sacrifice the integrity of Star Fox or like what makes that series so good in favor of trying to implement other stuff that was done in like Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Assault, etc. Like, I don't think, to me, that's what really that franchise is really its golden points are. It's the R-Wing battles. Like, everybody goes back to Star Fox 64 or goes back to Star Fox on Super Nintendo. That's what those games were, so I think they really kind of better focus on that than anything else.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they've already shown everybody what they can do when they're on the floor, when they're on the ground just running around, and Star Fox Adventures wasn't all that great.
It felt like it was copying Zelda. It felt like literally was copying Zelda, Star Fox Adventures. Like, I feel like that it lost a sense of identity there for a second.
Yeah, and if they did that again, and especially after how bad it was recepted, they should just kind of not do a Star Fox again. But I don't think they're going to do that. I feel like they've learned their lesson, so to speak. I think they're going to do something different. I know Miyamoto wants to do something special with it. That's why, he's trying to find the developer. In this case, has found somebody. So I'm really hoping it's someone who can take the franchise under their wing and take it somewhere else to where it hasn't gone before. But hopefully in a better direction than previously.
You know what I think would be cool for Star Fox? Like, because I remember back on Star Fox 64, besides the R-Wing missions, there was the mission with the tank.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be in different vehicles in that universe, just to see, or even control the Great Fox. All these different vehicles. How awesome would that be? To me, the Great Fox for Nintendo is like the Starship Enterprise. Like, that's what it reminds me of. Like, it's just really cool. And like, was it the R-Wings are like X-Wings, obviously, from Star Wars, but like, I would love to be in other vehicles trying different missions and have a different flavor of that type of gameplay in that universe. I think that would be so much fun.
Yeah, even the submarine.
The submarine is another one.
Was pretty cool too. It was different. It took me, I don't know how many years to find it. I was completely oblivious of how to get there, but once I got there, it was different. It was completely different. And I'd rather be in a vehicle than just having Fox and Falco and all those other guys just running on the ground.
That's the thing. Vehicular combat, I think, is what Star Fox's like best point is. That was the word I was looking for before. Like, it's just more fun to me like that. Again, like, what other vehicles or other machines and contraptions can be in that world? Because isn't one of them on the Star Fox team a mechanic?
I think that's Pippi.
It's Pippi, right? Or no, in the later games, Pippi becomes I said Pippi. Pippi becomes he becomes like a some sort of like captain or admiral or something later on in the games where he kind of leaves the Star Fox team. I was so like one of them was like supposed to be like a mechanic and stuff. It'd be cool to see like different inventions of like different ships, or even imagine unlockable like alterations to like R-Wings in a Star Fox game, kind of like Rogue Squadron, where you had like all the different starships they could use. That'll be so cool.
Yeah, and I think they can do something great with the gamepad. I really hope they don't screw it up. I'm not much of a fan of motion controls. I actually don't like them at all.
Something? You know what's crazy? Because I remember in the 3D re-release for Star Fox 64, I never once wanted to use the motion controls on there, the kind of like gyroscope stuff. And I'm hoping that the only thing that they really use other than like communication stuff like that for the gamepad, that they don't focus solely on the motion controls to control the R-Wing or to control the targeting. Because if you got the 2 analog sticks on there and all the other buttons and stuff, I'm good. I don't want to have to kind of mess up my aim and mess up my experience just trying to deal with that gyroscope on the gamepad and dealing with the motion controls and trying to point my gamepad onto the screen like that. I think that would ruin it.
Yeah, it would kill the experience, man. I mean, going back to Star Fox 64 again, you didn't have motion controls, and granted, motion controls weren't really a thing way back when. But I mean, you didn't need it. You just needed your analog stick and your A button and your and I would be completely fine if they did that again.
Yeah.
I just want Star Fox, and I want it to be good.
I want it to be fun. Like, imagine online multiplayer for Star Fox multiplayer. Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that they did wrong with Star Fox 64 3D. I begged for online multiplayer, and we didn't get that. This is their opportunity to do it.
Wow.
We're going to be doing barrel rolls online. It's going to be...
Yeah, if they didn't do it then, man, that was a missed opportunity.
Huge. But one thing they did do, though, and I got to give them credit, they gave them game sharing on the 3DS, which if you had one card, all 4 people could play Star Fox multiplayer.
Oh, okay. See, that may help, but still, it's not like...
It's not online. Like, here's the thing, because on that game specifically, they had the thing with the 3DS camera that you could look at your face like that, or see the people's faces as you're playing and such. How funny would that be online? That'd be...
Well, then again, I mean, there are a lot of weird people out there, so that may be bad.
True.
So maybe that's why they didn't do it, but even without the face recognition, I still think it's a missed opportunity, and if this one doesn't have it, oh my goodness, what
they better have online. They better have online, Miyamoto. I'm just saying. But yeah, like it opens up a lot of cool opportunities. I also want co-op. I want co-op in the Star Fox game, like some of the missions like that. I think that'll be fun. Even if you could play 4-player co-op with the entire Star Fox team, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be different, and I don't see why they wouldn't, especially if you're flying around with 3 or 4 other characters.
Because Rogue Squadron did it. Rogue Squadron on the GameCube did that. I think it was like Rebel Strike or Rogue Leader, I believe it was, like something like that. One of those games did co-op missions. I think it was only up to 2 people, but I would love to play like big crazy Star Fox missions with up to 4 people, like co-op like that. Because in a day and age now when like multiplayer is heavily online and stuff, and like you have all these different co-op experiences, like in Halo, because Master Chief Collection came out not too long ago, it can be done.
Yeah, it should.
It should. I mean, that'll be fun. That'll be another game for Nintendo to kind of push their online support, because they're kind of really getting their feet in the ground now that Smash Brothers is out. And like the online for that is really good.
Yeah, that was a big troll. I mean, Smash Bros. Online, everyone thought it's going to be like Brawl, it's going to be trash, it's going to be terrible. But I've been playing it since launch day, and I've maybe had 1 or 2 lag issues. Other than that, everything's been smooth, no problem, 0. And I'm going over Wi-Fi. I don't have the LAN adapter.
Yeah, that's great. It's good. And so hopefully it can make it happen, Nintendo. That'll be sweet. You got me day one, if that's good. But let's talk about some other stuff, what's been going on. A couple cool stuff that's been happening over on IGN. Obviously it's been like a little bit over a week or whatnot, but PlayStation Experience happened. That's where all the Street Fighter V news dropped, or right before. But the guys had a live Beyond over in PlayStation Experience in Vegas. And they had Adam Boyes and Shuhei Yoshida over there, just hanging out and such. Did you get to check out the whole the presentation?
I didn't catch the video, but I downloaded the episode of Beyond.
That was fun. Like, I love going to the live Beyonds. Like the last one I saw, one of my first ones I went out there was during New York Comic Con that just passed, and just like being in the audience just there and seeing the reaction of the people, I think is so much fun, because it takes an already kooky and fun podcast and just makes it that much more fun to be a part of.
Did you see any crazy characters in the audience?
Yes, I did. There's a couple Colin for President 20XX guys. There was a couple other people walking around with the Beyond shirts and stuff. What's even funnier, funny story, I went to a store, right, and I saw a guy walking around with a Beyond shirt, just on his own, whatever. It was like completely random. And I yelled out Beyond, so he turned around, he yelled out right Beyond right back at me. It's like that. So I was like, yep, the Beyond Nation sticks together. It was so good. Absolutely. But it was fun, like seeing that live podcast there, and it was cool to be in the audience and such. But like seeing the one at PSX, I'm pretty sure everybody there had a ball. Just seeing again Shuhei, was they always get him for E3. Seeing Adam Boyes, just talking about the games and such, and he's got his deal voice, his troll voice now.
Yeah. Like I had referred earlier in the week, he's got that I smoke 10 packs of cigarettes a day.
He's like a film. He's like part of a film noir. That's what he reminds me of. Like he reminds me of one of those detectives.
Yeah, really.
Like seriously,
really nasty one, but still.
That was the voice he used to get the Street Fighter V exclusivity. There you go.
Oh man, see that's another whole can of worms. The Street Fighter going to PlayStation, PS4 and PC exclusive, and that was another announcement coming out of PSX.
So let me ask you, like, what did you think of that, real briefly?
Bad, terrible. I hate it. Only because I don't have a PS4 and now I have to buy one, as if I didn't already have an excuse with the order. But yeah, I mean, as a person who really enjoys fighting video games, like I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, that's kind of like my thing. That's what I like to do, and I don't have a PS4. And the fact that that Street Fighter V looks similar to Street Fighter 4, I didn't really like that. You know, I feel they should have turned the series in a different direction.
Yeah.
Even if they went back to like the alpha aesthetic, or you know, maybe even Third Strike, that would have been nice. It would have been a change. But now I'm kind of getting that like annualization vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that.
So let me ask you the more important question. You know, what about Uncharted 4 being a reason to own a PS4 when that comes up?
That's as if you know, The Last of Us remastered wasn't enough. You know, Uncharted 4 looks freaking amazing.
That footage that came out of PSX, that was awesome. Like, granted, okay, obviously it was the beta footage, and he kind of did fall through the map when he died, which I thought was funny. And I think it's testament to Naughty Dog's like pedigree, because like they could do that and not get kind of like chewed out about it, because the games are so good. But it was cool seeing like some of the stuff, and then obviously the big drop, you know, of Nathan Drake having a brother with what was it? It was Troy Baker. That showed up in there. That was pretty cool. But whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm loving what I saw from Uncharted 4. I mean, that was all gameplay, you know, which is great. It was really cool to just see, you know, some of the little nuances that they had there when Nathan Drake's hanging out on he's hanging off the side. He's trying to pull the guy down, you know, and the enemy will actually grab his leg and you got to kind of fend him off. That's different.
Yeah.
That's different, and it adds a little bit much more suspense, a lot more like, you know, drama to everything that's happening. It's not so straightforward where like Nathan Drake will take out like 40 dudes on a map easily without a problem.
Mm-hmm. And I played a little bit of Uncharted 3, and I don't recall a like an ice pick, you know, climbing on like a cliff with an ice pick, or even a you know, not a hook shot, but it's like a grappling hook, you know, with a rope. I've never seen that before, and just those little things kind of got me. I was like, wow, you know, it really adds to the gameplay, it really adds to the environment, and all that good stuff. And another thing that sold me on the video game. Yeah,
I mean, in past Uncharted games, they've had like sections where Nathan Drake is like rappelling down, and then like their dudes from the spot where he just came from, or trying to, you know, look over the cliff and shoot him, but nothing like when he's like actually like swinging on the actual rappels. That's a very heavy like Indiana Jones / like classic adventure type of thing, and it's cool to see that, because it looks like it's gonna be implemented well. I just hope it doesn't get a little bit cliche where you start doing it like 40 times throughout the entire experience. Yeah. That would suck, because like those are like special moments.
Right. Yeah, don't overdo it, Naughty Dog, please.
Please. You're doing good so far. Please, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. But yeah, I love the footage from what I saw. I thought it was awesome. I think it was cool. A couple other big things, or one of the other little neat gems that the guys were talking about. Shovel Knight coming to PS Vita and PS4.
Yeah, that's good old Shovel Knight.
That Shovel Knight is cool. I mean, I haven't really gotten a chance to like own it on 3DS, because I was waiting for this to happen. I want it on my Vita. But like I've gotten, like other people have had it on their 3DS, and I've like daddled with it, and it's really cool. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, it's got the whole 8-bit aesthetic, you know, it's kind of like an homage to NES gaming, or, you know, 8-bit style gaming. I have the soundtrack, and I still listen to it like almost every day, just because it kind of takes me back. But yeah, Shovel Knight's a great game. Everybody should play it.
And now with it coming to Vita and PS4, now it's going to have trophies.
Right. Trophies, exactly.
Trophies,
that's another thing that's going to hook everybody, is the trophies.
I want to know who's going to be the first dude to get that platinum, because that platinum is probably going to be ridiculous, because the game is kind of challenging, so that should be fun. I mean, also keep in mind too, I also want to make sure, I don't know if they said it or not, but I want cross save, kind of like what Rogue Legacy had with PS3 and Vita. I want that also, that Shovel Knight to have the same thing.
You know, they may even do cross buy, and
if they do, all the more better.
Yeah, PlayStation's good with that, and I feel that's where Nintendo lags, and they really need to do that.
Definitely.
But I mean, you know, PlayStation's always been great with cross-save, cross-buy on all 3 of the platforms, or 4 of the platforms, you know, wherever.
If Nintendo was smart, now that Smash Brothers Wii U is out, at some point have a bundle or a deal where you get both of those games for a nice discounted price.
Yeah, Nintendo will never do that though. They hardly even drop their first party games for sale, and if they go on sale, they're maybe like $10 or $5 of a difference, which is
not even nothing.
Nothing. It's like sales tax basically.
But yeah, if Shovel Knight has that with Vita and PS4 cross buy like that, I'm all in. I'm all good. Because that game's good. That's a great game. And I think, it's kind of surreal being able to play an 8-bit game on your PlayStation 4 that's like supposed to be like super powerful and stuff and whatnot. But still, it's still a great game. And again, a lot of people probably said the same thing about Last of Us Remastered, even though that game looks amazing on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, how do you think The Last of Us would play if it was 8-bit?
If it was 8, oh man, like... I think it'd probably be like a platformer, like kind of like what was that game that was on PlayStation Plus one time that it's like it's kind of a little bit of a survival type of game or like it's done in an 8-bit style. I can't remember what the name of it was. They had a director's cut that was released for PlayStation Plus. It was on Vita. It was on PS3. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. I know somebody will eventually remember the name of it. Let us know if you don't understand what I'm talking about. But it was on PlayStation Plus. It has a guy that wears like a little kind of a thing on his mouth to cover his mouth because I guess it's like some toxic thing.
I know what you're talking about. It's on the Wii U also.
Yeah.
Oh jeez, it's a mini game.
Yeah.
Oh, listener, if you know, send us an email.
They're gonna be like, oh man, these guys, they're not on point.
Noobs.
But yeah, these noobs. But like that's how I think like 8-bit Last of Us would kind of play. I think it would be awesome. It would be funny to see. You know what, Naughty Dog? As a fun pet project, go make us an 8-bit Last of Us for the anniversary.
Please. I would buy that, Naughty Dog.
I think everybody would buy it just for fun of it. It'd be crazy. But yeah. But besides that, besides everything else that went on at PlayStation Experience, the boys also did something cool. Colin, Greg, and Brian, they took a trip over to Toronto to hang out with Unicronis, and to actually record Podcast Beyond with him.
Yeah, good old Frankie.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I mean, it was it was at the request of the Children's Wish Foundation, I believe it was.
Right, yeah, he's suffering from some sort of disease, and the cool guys from Beyond went and took a trip right after PSX. Probably had
the day after PSX.
Yeah, they flew out. I think Brian got to snooze a little bit because it was more Colin and Greg who took off from right after PSX. But they went and hung out with him for a while, and they really made this kid's day. You can definitely check out the episode on Beyond on IGN or wherever you download your podcasts, but they really made his day. You can tell he was on cloud nine the entire episode.
It was fun because for him, not only he got to meet a group of guys that he's a fan of. It's kind of funny, but also very cool to say like he wanted to have the Wish Foundation to actually go and actually get them out there to meet him and such. But he was one of the boys for a day. Yeah, he was there. He was part of Podcast Beyond. He wasn't just listening anymore, and that's something I think he will remember for the rest of his life because that is really, really cool and a fun experience for him. Like that's not something he would get every day, and he seemed like he was on cloud nine. He was having a ball.
Yeah, and he threw out the Beyonds, and he was like one of the guys. He was hanging out. They were playing video games. I think they like pigged out completely.
That was fun.
Yeah, you just got to hang out with them and. That was great, man. It just kind of shows it really illuminates the personalities of the guys from Beyond and IGN as an organization company, and it just shows that they care for the community. They're not these guys who go to work and talk about video games and think they're the best in the business. These guys are awesome guys who care for the community, and they may not respond to all your tweets and emails, but they still appreciate.
They're humble.
The community. Exactly.
They're humble, and I think that was the best. That was the best thing. It was a humblingly fun podcast to listen to because he was cracking jokes on them too, which I thought was even funnier, which was great, and that was pretty cool. But besides that, let me also throw in a little bit of mention. Jared Petty's back. Jared Petty, showed up. He obviously was gone for a little bit, dealing with the crash that he had dealt with recently. But he came back into the office and he actually did a cool tribute to Ralph Baer. Because Ralph Baer recently just passed not too long ago. I forgot the age that he died to. He was in his 90s. 92.
Yeah.
He was 92. So pretty much the father of the console video gaming, pretty much, for the most part.
Right, and a lot of people don't give him the credit that he certainly deserves, and I feel Jared's article just really did that. perfect.
It was cool.
It was on spot. Yeah.
Him and Damon talking about it, pretty much talking about Ralph Baer. And actually, like, it was one of the things that they mentioned I thought was interesting, because in a lot of books that Ralph Baer has been, like, interviewed or, like, quoted and stuff, he always has this kind of, like, tone where it's like, hey, I know a lot of people, trying to kind of take credit for creating modern video games, making modern console games and such, but I'm kind of like, over here, I did all this stuff before, anybody else did. It's kind of funny just for that tone, but he's right. And he kind of, like, without him, we literally wouldn't have nothing. Any of these stuff, which is crazy.
He was absolutely a pioneer, and the perfect role model for any game developer, designer, anyone out there who wants to make video games. Look into him if you haven't already, Ralph Baer, and he just did what he loved to do, and until the end of his days, like we were saying, he's a 92-year-old guy, and
still kicking
it, and he was still creating stuff. He would even say, like, I can't even, like, talk about it right now when people would ask, like, hey, what are you working on? So he was a guy who just loved to make video games, and unfortunately, his passing affects the game industry. But I feel people can definitely learn from him, and
it was a great loss. It was a real great loss. What I want, though, now that he's gone, I mean, it kind of sucks because he's going to get more appreciation now that he's dead than when he was alive, which is a shame. But with him being gone, I think one of the classy things to do, because the Game Awards just happened not too long ago. I would love to see, like, a Ralph Baer Award of, like, excellence at one of these events. Like, I think, that's a classy, deserving thing. You see the same thing in, like, in a film and the Oscars and such like that. I think that'll be cool, not only helping advance, video games as not only as an art form, like, as far as, like, the pinnacle of, like, achievement of which we've come as an industry, but it'd be a very classy thing to do, because, again, like, he's one of the guys that was ground zero, because without his work, there would be no console game, there would have been no NES, and everything else to stem outside after that.
Right, yeah, that would be the perfect homage to him, and I feel like he'd be staring down from us, saying, like, "Yeah, that was me."
That's right. That's so funny. Imagine him up there from heaven just doing that, like, "Yeah." It's so funny.
That's my award. Finally getting the recognition. I mean, he got recognition, obviously.
I think it was the VGAs. He got some recognition one year. I remember.
Yeah, I just feel if you Mr. or Mrs. Listener, if you haven't looked into Ralph Baer, definitely check him out. Check out some of his videos. It's worth looking into, especially if you love and appreciate video games as this man did.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into this week's community spotlight here on the My IGN forums and the All-Star forums and such. This week's community spotlight is Fenriff. He's the community spotlight member of the week. Okay, he has a blog on myign.com, okay, which is, he writes pretty much different blogs about different video games and mostly classic stuff, just always very interesting. But he's the IGN member, okay, and his actual PSN and his Steam account name is the same name. It's Fenriff, Fenriff. Okay, I'm actually pulling up one of his blogs now to actually find him on here. See if I can get on here because searching and stuff. No, we're not prepared. This is like we're getting the kinks kind of
It's the pilot.
It's the pilot. It's the first type of post. We're coming out. We're here. Whatnot. Trying to see if we can do this because loading and stuff, man. but yeah, Fenriff is this week's community spotlight member, and like everybody go check him out on his MyIGN profile. Go check out his blog posts. Again, a lot of interesting stuff that he's written up, and go be his friend on PlayStation Network and Steam. Go play some games with him.
Right, he wrote a previous blog post, I believe it was called Baby Come Back, and it was really just video games that he wanted to see as sequels, and, he had mentioned old video games like, I believe it was Legend of Dragoon, there was like a Mickey Mouse Sega game.
Oh yeah, I think it was Magical Adventure, or like, not Castle of Illusions, but like, I forgot which one it was. It was like one of the 16-bit ones that was like really good back in the day.
Yeah, and and if you listen to this podcast, or if you're a frequent IGN viewer, and you too can also blog. The forums are great on IGN, the boards are great, and the blog you can do so much if you want to blog. And I've been blogging for a while, and I'm still learning stuff to make your blog page just amazing, just like how Fenriff has. So definitely check out check out the blogs, man. Check out IGN.
I mean, also, you guys out there, you could end up possibly popping up as the Community Spotlight Member of the Week by not only, again, writing blogs on my IGN. If you haven't done so, go on IGN.com and actually sign up to be part of the forums. You could do blogs there. You could actually leave comments in a lot of the different articles and the videos and such, and get the discussion going, and all over the place. And maybe one day you'll actually find yourself here on the Community Spotlight. Be cool. Get to hang with us. Get to talk with us. It'd be cool. Have a whole bunch of friends. It'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, man, that's just about going to wrap up our pilot episode, our first episode, man. I mean, what did you think? You good?
I think it's good. I think it's cool. I think as time goes on, we're definitely going to make it more concrete. We're going to definitely flow even better than what we've already been doing, and it's only going to go up from here. So if you guys if you guys have any kind of feedback, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send us an email or send us tweets as to how we can fix it, how we can improve, or anything. My Twitter handle is Pete_Lopez. It's L0PEZ. You can check me out on IGN. My IGN page, it's Awakened Hero, AAAKENEDHERO. Send me a message, you guys. Let me know what we need to do.
Same here.
This is your podcast.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's podcast of the community. And you guys could also find me also at VenomousFatman1 on Twitter. That's at VenomousFatman and the number 1 on Twitter. And on the My IGN forums, it's MeMegaman03. You could actually check out all my stuff there and shoot me a message. I mean, what was the last couple things you ended up doing on the My IGN forums recently, Peter?
I really just did a shout out to see who would like to join maybe the All Stars podcast that we're doing right now, and then I kind of have a few things lined up. I might want to do a little bit of giveaways just to kind of get the community going and active with other members of the community. Just really make this podcast as well as the few things in the future community oriented, because I want to get us all together. I want to get us all chatting.
Get that communication.
I want to know who you are. I want to learn.
We all want to form Voltron. That's what it is. We're all going to come together. We're going to turn into one giant otaku robot. It's going to go down. I mean, lately, one of the last big things I did that I was telling you guys about beforehand was that I did an actual wiki guide on Freedom Wars. If you guys, I know Freedom Wars has been kind of big with a lot of the guys over on IGN, on Podcast Beyond and such. I did the guide for Freedom Wars. It has a description of all the missions and all the enemies, and it's really in depth and very helpful for a lot of the people that's first checking out the game and whatnot. I encourage you guys to check it out. It's a fun game, especially if you play with people. It makes the missions a lot easier online. But check out the guide. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you guys found the guide helpful, or if there's other things maybe I got to go back and add to it. Every little bit helps. Such. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up this podcast. So with that being said, guys, again, be sure to check us out on my IGN, and hopefully we'll, you guys can come back and check out the next episode of the IGN All-Star Community Podcast. We'll be back again soon. Talk to you guys again later. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.
Bye, guys.